So you want to make documentaries, but for some reason, you haven't taken the first step. Maybe it's fear of failure, not knowing where to start, or feeling overwhelmed by the process. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 steps to get started. Whether you are a beginner who wants to make your first documentary film, or a seasoned pro who just hasn't gotten around to making that personal passion project that you've been thinking about for years. No more waiting. It's time to go out and tell some stories. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Austin Meyer. I'm a Bay Area-based documentary filmmaker, National Geographic Explorer, and on this channel I share the field-tested skills, mindsets, and lessons that have helped me on my journey as a documentary filmmaker. The first step towards making your documentary project is to be unconditional. When I have one-on-one calls with documentary filmmakers or visit my alma mater to talk to video journalism or documentary students, one common characteristic that I see across those who haven't started yet, but they want to, is that they have some sort of threshold that they're waiting to reach that will indicate to them that they are ready to begin. They are waiting until they get that certain camera or a specific mic, or until their calendar opens up, or until they raise money or their pitch gets accepted. If you're watching this right now and say that you want to make a documentary, hear me on this. If you need perfect conditions to start, it means that your success is conditional. If you want unconditional success, then you have to be willing to start in any circumstance. And that circumstance is now. It's today. And if you feel like you need to watch some more YouTube videos or read some more books to wrap your head around how to do this whole documentary filmmaking thing, let's move to step number 2, learn by doing. Every time you start something new, especially if it's a documentary film project, it always feels like this big amorphous thing. How are we going to take all this technical equipment and use it to make sense out of the chaos that is someone's real life? The whole process can feel overwhelming, and to navigate our way through the ambiguous overwhelm, a lot of us will turn towards passive education. What I mean by that is we'll turn to watching a YouTube video like this about filmmaking. We'll turn to watching a documentary that is similar to the kinds that we want to be able to make one day. We'll binge Ken Burns on Masterclass, or listen to a podcast interview with Alex Gibney, or we'll ask friends about what they would do in our situation. All of that is passive education. And the risk of passive education is that it can make you feel like you're getting the reps of the documentary filmmaking process, when in reality, you're not. And don't get me wrong, passive education absolutely has a place in the ecosystem of professional development. I mean, that's why I'm here on YouTube putting so much effort in every week, because I believe that passive education is a very useful resource. But in my opinion, it has to be a small supplemental piece of your career puzzle. And it's only really helpful if you are getting out there consistently and getting real world experience making documentaries in the field. Learn by doing. That is how you navigate the ambiguity of a documentary film and the ambiguity of making a career in this art form. Once you do your first interview, once you film your first scene, all of a sudden you're like, okay, I can wrap my head around this. Now I can see what I need to film next. Now I can see where I need to level up my skills for the next time. You will learn more in the process of making your first documentary than you will from 1,000 hours of watching YouTube videos about documentary filmmaking. My goal with a lot of the content that I have here is to shrink the time between you thinking about making that documentary you're dreaming of and you actually doing it. All right, step 3, use what you have. On this video, I don't even want to talk about what gear you should be investing in or why certain cameras might be better than others, because honestly, if we're focused on creating stories, anything that doesn't involve you actively working on a story is a waste of your time. Use your phone, use your parents' old camcorder, use a high-end cinema camera, borrow from a friend, whatever they have. I don't care. Just use whatever you have. And if you're watching this and don't have a phone, go grab some old family movies or archival material out there. Anything. The only thing you might not have that you need to make a film is video editing software. So I use Adobe Premiere, others use Final Cut, some use DaVinci Resolve. iMovie can probably get you started for free. All you need is a way of recording visual and auditory information and a way of arranging that information so that you can create something for viewers to experience. That's what all this gear and equipment we're talking about is for. So use what you have. Step 4, keep it simple. If you're not actively making a documentary right now, but you'd like to, you need to reduce the barrier of entry at every single stage of the filmmaking process. You need to reduce the amount of energy required to find a story, to film the story, edit it, and put it out. If you're like I was when I was first getting started, one of the most exciting prospects of working as a documentary filmmaker was how the camera could be my gateway to see the world. I dreamed of flying to far off places and working on huge, complex stories. And yes, all of those elements are perks of the job that you might enjoy at some point in your career. But if the story you want to tell is far away, if access is challenging, and if any money is required to do the project, every one of those scenarios raises the barrier to entry, making it less likely that you will make anything. So my advice is to start with the smallest project you possibly can. All right, what does that mean in the context of the story making process? Well, for finding a story, choose something that you're surrounded by. It could be your own personal story or the story of someone you live with. It could be a bird that lives in your backyard, the scenes out your window over the course of the day. Choose a story that takes no effort at all to access. This isn't just what beginners do, it's what pros do. Over half of the documentaries nominated for the 2025 Academy Awards were directed by individuals who are in the story. It's their story. Black Box Diaries, Sugarcane, No Other Land, all of those are personal stories. So this isn't just advice for beginners, it's for the pros out there. Find the story that you have the best access to. If you really want to get out of the house, still choose a story where the access is so easy that you'd have to make serious effort to not be where the story is happening. That could be a story within your close friend group, or about the crosswalk guard that you drive by every day. Or again, you could include yourself as a character, sharing the story of why a particular tree is meaningful for you. Which, side note, isn't it cool that when I say meaningful tree, I bet everyone right now watching can think of a meaningful tree to them. All right. The next story making step is to film it. So what does that look like from the simplest perspective? Well, first, again, as we went over, use what you have. Second, plan your production day or days as efficiently as possible. Know what you're filming, where it will take place, and where it will fit into the story. Again, short, simple, 1-day shoot, 2-day shoot. We're optimizing for simplicity and speed so that we decrease the barriers to start and increase the speed of learning, getting more reps of the cycle of going from start to finish. All right, next, edit it. Give yourself a deadline and start stringing your clips together. Don't worry about graphics or fancy transitions, any of that. Focus on the overall flow of the story. Is it communicating the message or story you want it to? And lastly, share it. If you just want to make documentaries for fun on your own, don't care who sees it, that's all good. Do whatever you want with your projects. But if you eventually want to make an impact with the films you create, you have to start sharing them now. Even if you don't want to because you don't think what you made right now is good enough, you have to put it out. Especially when you're first starting, putting out films is part of the learning cycle. To get feedback from people, to learn how it resonates, to learn how distribution works, to open yourself up to the randomness of future opportunities if someone sees your work. So share it with family, with friends, with mentors. Share it with me if you'd like, and we can discuss it through the link in the description. And I really urge you to put it out publicly, like here on YouTube or Vimeo or Instagram, which leads me to my final step, which could be the most challenging, but without this, none of the other steps matter. And that's step 5, be brave enough to be terrible. You likely want to make documentaries because you have good taste and you want to make work that you yourself like, that lives up to your taste. Well, as Ira Glass describes it, when you start out for the first couple of years, you make stuff. It's just not that good.
It's trying to be good. It has ambition to be good, but it's not quite that good. But your taste, the thing that got you into the game, your taste is still killer. And your taste is good enough that you can tell that what you're making is kind of a disappointment to you. You know what I mean? Like you can tell that it's still sort of crappy, A lot of people never get past that phase. A lot of people at that point, they quit.
So my question to you watching, are you brave enough to be terrible? Because that's what it takes to become a great documentary filmmaker. That's what it takes to become a great artist of any kind. There is no shortcut. There's no way to jump over this gap between your taste and your skills. The only way is through it, by showing up day after day and working on films, especially when what you're making is what you would consider to not be good. The only way through it is if you're brave enough to be terrible, because only when you have this bravery will you continue to step out onto the ledge and take the endless dives necessary to make great art. All right, that's it for today. I hope this gives you the confidence to take the first step, no matter how imperfect that first step might feel. One thing I try to remember when I feel nervous or unsure, but yet I'm still empowered to take that leap, is that every great documentary filmmaker has been exactly where I am right now. So let's be brave enough to be terrible and start telling stories. I'll see you next week. Go out and tell some stories.